Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Let's start our today's session, right? So, in our last session, we have discussed about the introduction of JavaScript, right? And what are the advantages, limitations, and what are the applications of JavaScript, right? And after that, we have also discussed the three different ways of embedding our JavaScript into the HTML page, right? So, I hope up to that everything is clear to everyone, right? Okay. So today we are going to start with the variables and literals, right? So we have already studied all these concepts in our from the beginning, like from the C, C++, Java. We have already studied all these concepts, right? Little bit syntax is different over here, okay? And rest of the things are very common, whatever we have studied, right? So we are going to start with the variables. So as we know that variable is used to hold some value, right? So variable, how you can define variable in JavaScript. So for that you have to use a var keyword, right? So this is an old way of declaring a variable using var keyword, right? After ES6 and all that, today we are going to use let keyword, right? So here in this example, you can see if I want to declare one message, declare one variable that is called a message, right? So for that, I need to write variable message equal to hello, right? And also I can write let message is equals to hello, right? So both are equivalent, both are same, both are used to declare a variable. There are some noticeable difference between let and variable, right? So here, the basic difference is whenever we discuss about the scoping, right? Scope. So we know up till now we have studied global scope and local scope, right? Okay. But now in ES6, what is ES6? ES6 is the version of the ECMA scripts, right? So that is one consortium that are defining the rules of the JavaScripts. Okay, right? So as we have discussed that in www, there is a one consortium that defines the rules, right? So similarly, this is one consortium, right? So programming language version 6. Okay. So in ES6, they have introduced a block level scope, right? So third one is a block level scope. So here, whenever you want to achieve a block level scoping, then you have to compulsory use let keyword that is not available in var keyword, right? So this is the first difference. So let keyword is always provides the block level scoping, whereas var keyword will not, right? Difference is define same variable, right? So suppose if I'm going to define let a and let a again, then it is not permittable, right? But if I'm defining variable a and variable a, then it will work. It will not provide any error. So this is the second difference, right? So let keyword is a modern keyword that is used with the modern JavaScripts, right? Apart from that, there is one another noticeable difference that suppose say for example, if I'm using one variable, right? Suppose say for a equal to 10, right? So I can define that variable after using it. So the very first line is a equal to 10, and then I'm declaring, right? So where a, this is possible with where keyword, right? But it is not possible with let keyword. So if you want to use a let keyword, then you have to compulsorily declare very first let a, and then you can use let a equal to 10, right? So this is the third difference. So likewise, there are some noticeable differences between let and where keyword, right? So according to your requirement, you can use. But nowadays, the most modern developers are using let keyword, right? Where keyword is an older way of declaring a variables, but still some people are using, right? Okay. So most probably we are going to use a where keyword, but you can understand you can also use a let keyword. In some examples, I have used let keyword, right? Okay. No types are declared over here, right? So here you can see that I declared a variable message, but I have not defined any particular type for this, right? So why? Because Java is a dynamically typed language. So at the runtime, it will find the appropriate type of that particular variable according to the value. So that is known as the dynamically typed language. Okay. And the same variable can hold different types during the lives of executions. Okay. So these are some important points regarding variable that you should remember. Okay. Now, variables contain a values and use the equal sign to specify their values. Obviously, we already discussed, right? So where message is equals to hello. So if you want to assign a value to the variable, then equal to sign is going to be used. Suppose say for this is one box, this is my variable message. I am putting hello into that. Later on, suppose I am assigning message is equals to world according to hello. So that hello will be discarded and word will be stored. So that value will be changed. So this is a very basic concept and you all know that. Okay. So this way variable is working, right? Now, next is variables and literals. In that, you can see that whenever we are using where keyword, right, to declare a variable, then that is known as the explicit declaration. Whenever we are not using where keyword directly, we are assigning a value I equal to 10, then it is known as the implicit declaration. So these are the two ways of declaring a variable. One is a explicit declaration. Another one is the implicit declaration. Now, what is the meaning of it? So it defines the scoping, right? So two types of scopes we have, global and local. Normally, we are studying from the beginning these two types of scopes. Global means whenever you are defining your variable outside any function, that is known as the global, right? And you all, this is very important point, any variable implicitly defined is going to be considered as a global. So whenever you are defining this type of variable, then it is global, right? Second one is a local scope. So we all know that explicit declaration inside the function, that is known as the local scope. Okay. Now let's go ahead. As we discussed earlier, from ES6, right? From ES6, third scope is going to be declared, that is known as the block scope. Okay, so we'll see the examples of it, each and every one, global, local, and block scope, right? So you will understand what is the meaning of it. So let's first of all start with the global scope. So when you execute a script, JavaScript engine creates a global execution context, right? So this is the procedure of JavaScript executions, right? So at the very first site, it creates the global execution context. It also assigns the variable that you declare outside of the function to the global execution context, because whatever variables we are defining outside the function, that creates the global scope, right? And they known as the global variables. They're known as the global variable. So suppose say for example, where message is equals to hi, right? So we are declaring a global variable. Okay. What is the local scope? right? So here I have put one example. So you can understand that this particular variable message hi is the global scope, and this particular variable message is at the local scope, right? Because it is declared inside the function, this particular is declared outside the function, right? So whenever I call a save function, then it will print hello first and console.log message. So this message will refer to the global variable, and that will put the hi as an output. So with this example, it will be easily understandable that what is the global and local scope. Okay, it is very easy. Now let's go for the block scope. Okay, let's first of all discuss what is the loophole or what is the leakage over here. So if you observe this particular example specifically, I will also demonstrate this with the example in a few minutes. So let's first of all understand that we are creating one function that is known as the get counter function, and we are defining one counter variable that is equal to 10, and we are returning that counter variable, right? And we are printing the output. Okay. So what we did, we assigned 10 numbers to the counter variable without using any let keyword, where keyword or constant keyword. And we are returning it. From the outside function, we are calling the get counter function, and we are displaying the result in a console, right? So though it is local variable, we are going to access outside the particular function. So this is the leakage of global variables, right? This issue is known as the leakage of global variables, because we have not used any keyword over here, and that particular variable is defined within a local scope. I hope you can understand this, right? This variable is defined within the function. So how you can avoid this, right? So this is the not desirable outcome. So how you can avoid this? So as a solution, what you have to use? You have to use that strict mode, right? But before that, how this particular thing works, why it is returning 10, right? So let's understand the particular execution portion. So in this, whenever we execute this particular code, right? Whenever we execute this code, okay? So what JavaScript starts execution, it first look out the local variables, local scope, right? The counter variable which is defined in that. Because we have not used any let, where or constant keyword, the counter variable is not available in the local scope, and it hasn't been created. This is the internal matter, guys, right? Just try to understand. Once it is not found at the local level, then JavaScript engine follows the scope chain, right? So this is known as the scope chain, and looks up the counter variable in a global scope. So once it is not found in a local, then go for the global one. Okay, in a global also, there is no counter variable is defined. So counter variable is also not available at the global scope. Then what will happen? Now our JavaScript engine will create the counter variable in a global scope automatically, right? And that's why we are getting the 10 as an output. That's why we are getting the 10 as an output, right? So this is the inner execution, background execution of the JavaScript code. And that's why we are getting 10 as an output. But suppose if I want to avoid this, if I want to stop this kind of malfunctioning, Then I just need to go for strict keyword. So this is the use of strict keyword. So in this particular code, what you can do, at the very first line, you have to use strict. So this is the syntax for using strict. So use space strict. And now if you execute this code, then it will return error, right? So the reference error counter is not defined. So this is our desirable output. If you want to use strict keyword in a function, within a function, then you just define use strict at the very first line in a function, right? So these are the two possible ways to use a strict keyword. This is very important one, right? And to avoid this weird behavior of the global scope, we are going to use strict keyword, right? Is there any doubt in this example? Anyone, guys? Up to this, is there any doubt? Anyone?
Sir, what is the leak of global variable?
Yes. So here, let me go to the back side. Here is in this particular example, if you see that this counter variable is defined as a local, if you understand, right? But we are not using any where, let, or constant keyword for this. Okay, so after this particular bracket, we are calling this by using get counter. So ultimately what we are doing, we are returning the counter variable. So that should come over here, right? So it is outside the scope, right? So what we are doing over here, we are using local variable as a global variable, right? So it should not be allowed, right? It should not be allowed.
Yes,
Because
sir.
of that, yes. So still we are getting the output. So this is not the desired output. So to avoid this is known as the leakage of the JavaScript global scope, right? And to avoid this, we are going to use a strict mode. We are going to use a strict mode, right? I hope it is clear to you. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let's discuss about the block scope. So we know that what is the meaning of block. So whatever we are defining within the curly braces, that is known as the block scope, right? But over here, to use a block scope functionality, you have to compulsory use let and constant keyword. It is not working with the variable keyword, where keyword, right? So whenever you want to achieve a block scoping, then you have to compulsory go for let and constant keyword. Constant keyword is used to define a variable constantly. After that, you cannot change it, right? So normally it is used with the if, switch, for, do, while loopings in all that. We are going to use a particular block scoping, right? So in this example, I have demonstrated that we are defining this particular let greeting variable inside the if block. So what is the block? So this curly bracket and this curly bracket. So what is the visibility of this greeting in between these two curly brackets? If you want to use that outside the particular scope, then it will give you the reference error, right? So within these particular brackets, it will work fine. Within that particular block, it will work fine. But after that block, you cannot access it, right? For that, you have to define global variables. So this is about the scoping. So here, global scope, local scope, and block scope. These are the three types of scopes we are having. Okay, right? So this is about the particular scoping. Now, as we are knowing that it is a dynamic typing, right? So it can be any type, right? These are the valid types: objects, functions, array, string, right? So these are the valid types for JavaScript. Now let's discuss a little bit about the function, right? So because we are going to use functions everywhere in JavaScript. So if you want to define a function, then function keyword you have to use. After that, you have to define a function name and the body, right? So here the new thing is you have to define a function with the function keyword. Rest of the things are same. Suppose this is a function A, and then variable A is equals to some function, right? So value of function assigned, not the return results, but no name function is there. So here in this particular, you can say JavaScript, that is one another kind of important concept. Okay, that we'll discuss later on. So this is the function A. How you can call the function? So simply you have to just call the function by its name A and then brackets. So that will execute the function, call the function. If you want to return a value, then you can use a return keyword. You can pass the arguments. You can see over here, all the things are same except the function keyword, right? So up till now, whatever we are going to learn, so that all concepts we are applicable over here. Function, you can see over here, all are legal functions. You can call it, right? Okay, so this is a new thing is added into the functions. So let's discuss about it. So one arrow function concept is there, and it is in ES6, right? So this is the latest version. Now, without curly brackets, arguments is equals to expression. So the right side is an expression and the function evaluates it and return the results, right? So you can imagine that there are two ways of defining this. You can use a curly brackets, you cannot use a curly bracket. It's optional. It's up to you, right? So brackets allows you to write a multiple statements inside the functions. Okay, right? But we need an explicit return to return something, right? So what is the thing over here? So here in this example, you can see that constant x, right? After that, I am defining the arguments x and y, two arguments I'm going to pass. And as a result, I'm returning the multiplication of that two numbers. So you can observe over here, in a single line, you can write the whole function, right? Let x1 is equals to x 100, 200. So this particular function is going to be called now, and it is going to return the multiplication of x and y, and we are going to print this output on a web page, right? So this is a way of defining the arrow function. This is the way of defining the arrow function. Over here, you can see that in a single line, you can write a code. Otherwise, if I want to declare this function, so what I need to write? Function keyword, then x function I need to write, into xy I need to write, and into that I need to return x multiplication y, and then I can call the function 100, 200. So this is a normal way of defining the particular function, right? But instead of this, all these tasks can be achieved in a single line. Okay, right? So this is the arrow function that is newly introduced in ES6. So another way is you can also execute the expressions over here, right? So there is a difference between our normal function and this function, right? So this is all about the functioning over here. After that, there are operators. Okay, so arithmetic operators, comparison operators, all these operators are similar as we are learning from the starting. Assignment operators, logical operators, bitwise operators, spatial operators, right? So all the operators are supported, whatever we are studied in our Java, C and C++. So we are not going to discuss this right now. You are already aware of it, right? After that, data type conversions, right? So here in these examples, you just observe the results. So if I write 3 plus 3, then it is a 6. But if I write 3 plus in double inverted comma in 3, then it is converted into string, and that is in the 33. Similarly, here also 3 plus 3, 6 and 3, then it is known as the 63. Right? Now, this is the interpretation of these particular things. Now, suppose if I want to convert from string to numbers, right? So what I need to do, we are aware of parse integer function, right? So that we have used in a Java. So parse integer function, what it will do, whatever thing, whatever string is there into that will convert it into integer. Now this 33 is the integer, right? Similarly, you can use parse float and all that stuff, right? After that, suppose if you want to convert number to string, then we have a particular syntax. You just put a double inverted comma, or you can use a toString function, right? So here you can see, suppose if I write this expression like this, double inverted comma plus 2500. And if I want to find the length of this string, then dot length is equals to 4, right? So this kind of type conversions are also possible. Okay, so this is the general interpretation of converting from string to number and number to string, right? So these are the possible things we have. And the last thing I want to discuss over here, that pop-up boxes, right? So to display the output, to confirmation or to prompt the output, from the input, we are having a 3 different types of box. One is a alert box, conform box, and prompt box. So let's discuss about it. So we start first of all with the alert box. So what alert box will do? Alert box is the most of the simple dialog box. These are also known as the dialog boxes. And it enables you to display a short messages to the user. So you can display some messages into alert boxes. So if I don't want to display the outputs in a web page, then I can use an alert box to display the output. It only contains OK button. So if you want to close that, or if you want to continue ahead, then you just click the OK button and then it will continue. So here I have written one script, right, that will demonstrate the particular example. So whatever example I'm going to discuss over here, all that examples I have put in the PowerPoint presentations, right? So you can use it. So here what I did, suppose if I want to display, either click OK button to continue message in an alert box. So what I can do, I can declare one variable and I need to write alert. Into alert, I need to provide the variable, right? So very first, this particular alert box will be displayed. Once you press OK over here, then and then this another alert box will pop up. So to pop up that, again, I need to use alert, and this is another alert box. Right? So carefully read this comment. The following line won't execute until you dismiss the previous alert box. Right? So at a time, you can only display one alert box. But after clicking OK, you can continue. Right? So this is a one simple script. If you write this script as it is into the particular Visual Studio Code, then it will display output like this. But remember one thing, whenever you are writing .js file, then you don't need to use this script tag. Script tag, you only just need to write in a HTML page. That you need to remember. So if I want to create a JavaScript file, alertbox.js, then I can write only the code into JS file. But suppose if I want to write alertbox.html, then I need to use script tag. This thing you have to remember compulsorily. Otherwise, you will not get output. Right? Next is conform dialog box. So conform dialog box allows the user to confirm or cancel the action. So it contains OK and cancel button. Right? So it contains the OK and cancel button. So suppose, say for example, in this script, you can observe that I have defined one variable result, and I'm going to use a conform over here. So after executing this line, this particular conform dialog box will be pop up. So it contains two buttons. One is OK, another is the cancel button. Okay, now if result is equals to OK, then I need to write you clicked OK button. So here when I press OK, then this particular output will be displayed. You clicked OK. Suppose if I click on a cancel button, then it will display you clicked on a cancel button. Simple. Very simple logic, right? So conform box contains these two buttons. Either is OK to continue or cancel to stop the action, right? So according to your requirement, you just need to choose the particular boxes, dialog boxes. And the last one is the prompt dialog box. So prompt dialog box is used to prompt the user to enter the information. Suppose if I want to take the number of values like X and Y values from the user, then I just need to write X equal to prompt, enter the value of X, right? So that is prompt dialog box. Suppose if you want to take the information from the user, then you can just use prompt dialog box. Again, the method return the text entered in an input field when the user clicks OK button. So whenever you click OK button, then your value will be considered and stored in the X. If you click on action, then your action will be cancelled, right? So let's see the example. So here, suppose if I want to do that, so I'm creating a name variable. So what I'm prompting, what I'm asking to the user, so what's your name? So that will be displayed over here, message. When the user enters the name into this particular field and press OK button, then a value will be come over here assigned to the name. Then name dot length greater than equal to 0 and then name not equal to null. Then I want to print a message, hi, whatever name you are entering. Else it prints the anonymous. So these are the very simple examples to understand the concepts of all these three dialog boxes. I hope it is clear to everyone, guys. Right? So these are the very important concepts you need to understand whenever you are dealing with the JavaScripts. Okay. After that, we have controls and loopings, right? So whatever we have studied in a C, C++, Java, all the concepts are the same as it is. If else if later, right? Then a switch case, the declaration is also similar, right? You can observe in this slide the declaration is very similar to whatever we have studied. Switch is also similar. You just need to use a switch case, default, break keyword, else if, right? In a for loop, there are two different loops are introduced in JavaScript. So we are already studied about the while, do while, and for loop. But there is a difference between for in and for off. So what is the difference? Like, suppose say, if I want to go for a for in loop, then it is looping through a properties of an object, right? And if I go for off, then it loops over the iterable objects like an array, string, right? Collections and all that. So that will be applicable to that. Okay, so let's go into the detail over here, how you can write that. While, do while, and for loop, the syntax are same. If I want to go for foreign, then what I need to write? For variable in and then object, right? So this object contains the properties. So suppose say for property like a key value pair, if you consider that, right? So it will iterate through this and it will return the values. It will iterate through all the keys and return the values. Similarly, if I want to go for off, right? Then I need to use a let keyword, let later of laters. So this is my iterators, iterable, right? So A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, so very simple syntax it contains, for in and for off, but you have to just remember, if you want to iterate through the properties of an object, then you have to go for in loop, and for the other iterators like an array and all that, you just go for the for off, right? So these are the very simple concepts in this particular JavaScript, right? After that, array and all that we are not going to discuss. So that we'll discuss after internal. Okay. So up to this, we have a syllabus, right? So I'm going to stop this section over here. And for the examples, we'll discuss in a lab session.